Hey, what's up? It's Jeff from Reviewly, and real quick, have you seen what Google just did? They quietly rolled out a feature that lets people leave anonymous reviews again. You heard that right. You can now get a 5-star rave or a full-blown emotional meltdown from someone with no name, no photo, nothing. And the craziest part, psychologists have been predicting exactly what this would unleash for years. There's this concept called the Online Disinhibition Effect. And it basically says that when people are anonymous, invisible, or don't have to look you in the eye, they express themselves way more intensely. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's, "Are you okay, Janet?" levels of emotional. And now that Google has cracked the anonymity door back open, the entire review landscape is about to get louder, more honest, and way more unpredictable. In today's video, we're breaking down what this update really means, not tactically, that's a separate video, but psychologically. Why anonymous reviews change human behavior, why you're about to see extremes, the love notes, and more importantly, the vent sessions, and how this affects your reputation, whether you like it or not. So let's break this down in plain English, because Google made a move that sounds small but has big ripple effects. Google is now letting people hide their profile name and photo when they leave a review. That's it. Super simple. But the impact is massive. Here's what this means at a technical level. The reviewer is still real, an authenticated Google user. This isn't the Wild West. They're logged in. You, as the owner, just can't see who they are. Their review still counts towards your Google ranking, anonymous or not. Google treats the review as legitimate. You, as the business, can still reply normally. You see a faceless review. You respond the same way that you would to a named one. So basically, Google is saying, we still know who they are. You as a business owner just don't. And that's where things get interesting. When you remove the visible identity from the review, something strange happens. People feel different. They act different and they write different. Psychologists call this dissociative anonymity. It's a fancy way of saying when you separate someone's actions from their identity, they feel safer expressing the full spectrum of emotion. And now Google has just built that wiring into their review system. So the rules of the games changes. People who used to hesitate might now hit post. People who used to soften their feedback might now be blunt. People who had something great to say might finally say it. Anonymous reviews aren't new, but bringing them back opens a door we haven't seen open on Google in almost a decade. And now that door is open. Let's talk about what's on the other side. So now that we know Google changed, let's talk about why this shift is about to unleash a whole new flavor of customer behavior. And honestly, this is the fun part, because humans get weird when being anonymous is involved. Researchers have studied this for years, and there's one concept that basically predicts everything we're about to see: the Online Disinhibition Effect. It's the idea that people say and do things online they never do face-to-face, and anonymity is the biggest fuel source behind that. Let's hit the big four that matter for Google reviews. The first one is dissociative anonymity. When people hide their identity, something wild happens. They mentally separate their actions from their real life self. It's like the online self becoming a compartmentalized self, a version of you that feels detached from the consequences. So instead of thinking, this review represents me, they think, this is just something I'm posting. That tiny shift unlocks a whole lot more honesty and a whole lot less filter. Second one is invisibility. When people are fully authentic, they lack without eye contact, everything changes. There's no facial expression, no body language, no sigh, nothing. Invisibility removes the subtle feedback that would normally make someone pull back or soften their tone. And when you take away the social pressure of seeing someone react, people will get bolder, funnier, meaner, more emotional, and unfortunately, more extreme. That's why anonymous reviews tend to be either super glowing or super frustrated, but almost never the calm, balanced middle. The third one is benign versus toxic disinhibition. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Anonymity doesn't just create more reviews, it creates extreme reviews. Some people become kinder, more expressive, more appreciative. Others become harsher, more reactive, and even hostile. It's not good or bad, it's just what happens when you remove identity. And now Google has removed that identity. So what you're really going to see is the full emotional spectrum of your customers unfiltered if they choose to make their reviews anonymous. The last one is asynchronicity, the emotional hit and run. This is my favorite part because it's painfully accurate. When someone can post a review and immediately disappear, they're more likely to drop something emotional and just simply walk away. Think of it like just throwing a grenade in the room and running, okay? It's literally an emotional hit and run to you. And guess what? That's exactly how anonymous reviews feel. Someone drops their truth, good or bad, and they get to move on. No awkwardness, no confrontation, just post and peace out. So psychologically, what's happening here? Anonymous reviews remove the brakes. They remove social pressure. They remove identity friction. And when all the brakes come off, people express the pure, unfiltered version of how they feel about your business. Whether that's love or frustration or something beautifully chaotic in between. So now that we've decoded what's going on inside of people's heads, let's zoom out and look at what this actually means for businesses like yours. Because anonymous reviews don't just change how customers write reviews, they change how the entire ecosystem behaves. And the impact is bigger than most owners realize. Expect more emotional intensity without identity. People don't write polite reviews. They write emotional reviews. That's because the psychological brakes are gone. No self-censoring, no fear or judgment. No, does this sound too harsh? So instead of mild, balanced feedback like the service was good, you'll start seeing things like this. This was the best experience of my entire life. Or this was a disaster. And here's 4 paragraphs explaining the entire situation on why. Anonymous equals amplified. Expect more people to leave reviews, period. Here's something most people that own a business overlook. Anonymity reduces friction. When your name isn't attached, leaving a review suddenly requires less courage, less vulnerability, less fear of awkwardness. That aligns perfectly with Cialdini's commitment and consistency principle. When you lower the cost of a micro commitment, you get more compliance. So you'll likely see an uptick in people who never review suddenly reviewing casual. 1 to 2 sentence reviews, good or bad, the overall volume will rise. Expect reviews to become more polarized. Middle of the road options shrink. Extreme options grow. Why? Because emotionally neutral people rarely take action, but emotionally charged people do. And anonymity supercharges those emotions because your profile might start looking like 5-star review, 1-star review, less middle, more extremes, and more likely on the negative side. Potential customers will read those extremes and try to interpret the pattern. That's the new psychological game. Expect less predictability. Here's the part that no one's prepared for. People who would never say something negative face-to-face might drop a 2-paragraph critique anonymously. And the sweetest customers, the ones who would never gush publicly because it just feels awkward, might finally tell you and help tell the world how much they absolutely love you and your business. This is an identity shift effect where people move into slightly different constellations of self depending on the environment. Anonymous reviewing is literally a different environment, and a different environment equals different behavior. So it's not just more reviews, it's going to be more unpredictable reviews. Your reputation will look more human. And honestly, that's not a bad thing. Real customers, real emotions, real experiences, no filter. Potential customers trust authenticity more than perfect profiles anyway. I believe that's why they're doing this. This update just pushes business reputation into a more raw, human psychological zone, and it ties into AI search engines. Okay, so now we know anonymous reviews change how people write reviews, but let's talk about the other side of this, how anonymous reviews change the way people read them and your responses to them, because potential customers don't just scan your rating, they try to interpret the entire story behind your reviews. And anonymity changes that story in some very interesting ways. Customers trust volume and patterns more than identity. When a review doesn't have a profile picture or a name, people don't panic. They simply shift what they pay attention to. Instead of looking at the reviewer's identity, they look at the frequency of reviews, the recency of reviews, the consistency of experience across all reviews, and the business owner's responses to each and every one. This is actually backed up by decades of social proof research. People look for patterns, not credentials. So anonymous reviews don't weaken credibility. They just shift credibility from the person to the pattern. If 30 people, anonymous or not, say your business is friendly, that's a signal. If 10 people mention long wait times, guess what? That's a signal. Humans are pattern recognition machines. Identity becomes optional. Consistency becomes king. The perception gap gets bigger. Here's something subtle most business owners miss. Customers don't judge the truth of a review. They judge the story of the reviews that you have and what that collectively tells. Anonymous reviews exaggerate both the highs and the lows, which means if your service is great, your reviews will sound even more glowing. If your service is inconsistent, those inconsistencies will sound even louder. Without identities attached, readers assume this person is speaking freely, so they're probably telling the truth. Think about that for a second. That's online disinhibition and the effect being interpreted from the outside in. Readers assume anonymity equals honesty. This can be a blessing or a curse depending on the story that your reviews naturally tell. Emotional resonance over logical detail. Anonymous reviews tend to read like something writing directly from their gut. And the crazy thing, readers trust gut level writing. It's real, more than well-edited corporate sounding reviews. Why? Because emotional writing feels raw. Raw feels honest. Honest feels trustworthy. So a review like, "These guys saved my day. I was stressed, running late, and they handled everything like absolute pros," will outperform something like, "Excellent customer service. I highly recommend this business." This isn't an accident. Emotional content activates a different part of the brain. Anonymous reviews produce more emotional content, and I believe that's what Google wants. And emotional content produces more conversion. The halo effect grows stronger. Here's a fun one from behavior psychology. When reviews contain strong emotion, positive or negative, readers assume the emotion is tied to the entire business. So one powerful anonymous rant can color how they read the next few reviews. One powerful anonymous raving fan can also uplift the whole page. Anonymous reviews equal bigger emotional swings. Emotional swings equal bigger halo effect. Bigger halo effect equals strong first impression. It all cascades. The net result is reputation becomes more real human interaction. The review page becomes less of a resume and more of a candid conversation. More human, more emotional, more dynamic. Anonymous reviews push the Google ecosystem towards something that looks a lot more like true human expression. The good, the bad, and even the beautifully messy. And the business that understands that psychology, they're going to adapt faster, more importantly, respond smarter, and ultimately win more customers. So with all this psychology floating around, anonymity, emotional extremes, pattern recognition, halo effects, you're probably wondering, okay, Jeff, so what does this actually mean for how businesses should operate? Here's the simple, honest truth. When customer behavior becomes more unpredictable, your systems have to become more predictable. And that's where Reviewly fits into this. Not as a cool tool, but as a way to stabilize the chaos that anonymous reviews are going to naturally create for business owners. Let me show you what I mean. When emotion increases, volume matters more. Anonymous reviews tilt the world toward emotion-heavy feedback. That means the number of reviews becomes more important than ever because, as we covered earlier, high volume creates pattern clarity. Pattern clarity creates trust. Trust creates conversion. This is textbook social proof. It's also what AI is looking for to recommend your business. And that's always been Reviewly's wheelhouse. We have 96% read rate for SMS requests, frictionless follow-ups, physical tools like QR, NFC plates, and cards that catch people at peak satisfaction, most likely to leave a 5-star review. AI drafted responses that meet the emotional tone of the review in a world where emotion is louder. Getting more reviews matters more than ever. When identity disappears, consistently becomes your moat. Anonymous reviews make your reputation look more like a heartbeat. Up, down, up, down. Regular review flow smooths that out. Think of it like this. If you get 2 reviews a month, one harsh anonymous review can dominate your page. But if you get 30 reviews a month, that same review barely dents the narrative of your story. Consistency is not about perfection. It is about emotional balance, and tools that automate outreach, follow-up, and response keep that balance steady even when customer emotions spike. When customers get more expressive, your responses need to keep up. Here's the big psychological shift most people miss. If customers are becoming more emotional, your response needs to be emotionally intelligent. This is where our most recent updates matter. Specifically, the contextual AI reply system. It analyzes sentiment, the emotional language, the keywords, and tone of that review, and helps draft replies that match the reviewer's energy in a way that's pragmatic and feels authentic. Positive reviews get warmth, negative reviews get empathy, neutral reviews get clarity. It's essentially the antidote to anonymous intensity. And finally, when the review landscape gets messier, owners need simplicity. Look, most owners don't want to live inside of dashboards. They live inside of text messages. That's why Reviewly was built to notify owners instantly, let them approve replies via text, avoid logins, and streamline everything into one simple loop. This aligns with Cialdini's Unity principle. Speaking the same language, living in the same workflow. This is not about tech. It's about matching the psychology of the people using it. Anonymous reviews are not a threat. It's a shift. And shifts always reward the people who understand the psychology behind them and who use tools that adapt to how humans actually behave online. That's why Reviewly exists. Not to fight against human emotion, but to support it, channel it, and build it into trust. So that's the psychological side of Google bringing back anonymous reviews. And honestly, it's kind of fascinating, right? If you really know why they're doing it, it's about getting more volume. We're watching human behavior reshape itself in real time. And Google just opened the door for people to be a little more real, a little more emotional, and a whole lot more expressive. But here's the good news. If you understand the psychology, the change won't catch you off guard. It'll actually give you and your business an advantage over your competition, because most businesses will look at anonymous reviews and think, oh no, this is going to be a problem. But the smart ones, just like you, the ones who get how people think, they see this as a huge opportunity to build trust and get results on AI search engines faster than ever before. Now, everything we covered today was the human side of the update, the psychology, the behavior, the ripple effects. In the next video, we're going to break down the part you're probably most excited about, how businesses can take advantage of this update ethically. No manipulation, no gray areas, no bribing, just smart psychology and clear action. We'll cover exactly what you should do, what not to do, what to expect, and how to build a system that turns anonymous reviews into a competitive edge. And trust me, this is the one that you do not want to miss. If you got value out of this, hit the like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you don't get left behind when the next video drops. And hey, if you want a tool that actually matches how people leave reviews today, not how they did 5 years ago, you already know where to find us at reviewly.ai. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.